Happy New Year from Talking Racine. And boy, have we got a hangover for you. Oh man. It's Mr. George Myers here to my left, Mr. Jim Spodek to my right, and I'm Dr. Ken Jorgen, your host.
Happy New Year. Welcome to 2018.
Boy, oh boy.
Yeah.
Well, Machinery Row is back. This is the hangover, folks. A case was filed, or a suit was filed in federal court. Just what, last week was it? Went in last week.
Yeah, the 27th.
On behalf of Sam Azarian and Rick Olsen, who were owners of a good part of the properties down there in what was going to be the Machinery Row development. And it's a federal suit, and they're looking for relocation expenses because they were not given them when they left. And if I remember right, Jim, we discussed this once before, somebody who is being relocated for a public project like this cannot forego their rights to relocation expenses.
Correct. They cannot just...
It can't be part of the agreement.
Cannot be agreement.
We'll buy the property such and such, but you forego your relocation costs.
They cannot
they can't forego them.
They can't forego the relocation.
No, they can't.
No. Right.
But I mean, they can't agree to forego their... Right. They're not allowed to put that into the agreement.
Right.
They just can't make that part of the agreement.
And also, any public body, any governmental body that is going into a public project like this is required by law to notify the people that are being displaced of their relocation rights and to formulate a relocation plan and appropriate compensation before the whole thing is initiated.
Before you move, and it goes to the state, to the Department of Administration, and then it comes back, and then it's executed. You know, and
that didn't happen in this case.
None of that. Matter of fact, it was maliciously kept from the people, especially the tenants, and then of course the owners also. But that's what spurred this suit.
Now
the rights were
we've been through this already once, right?
We have.
What this newspaper headline was about, the relocation cost?
That's not a newspaper, that's the Journal Times.
Yeah. But Nicole Larson, the deputy city attorney, said that reasonable consideration will be given to Mr. Fagan's claims, that's for relocation costs, whether they are presented to the RDA or presented to the court. Now, my understanding is that Mr. Fagan had already gone to her, right? Long before this article, right, Jim?
This was a December suit that was filed, and this was in June. The Department of Administration sent a letter to Nicole Larson stating that Mr. Fagan has relocation rights and that he should be just compensated.
That was the state of Wisconsin telling her. Correct. And how did she receive it? Didn't you tell me that she had said, well, wait a second, we're not going along with that anyway?
Right. We don't think that it actually is true.
We don't agree.
You have to remember, Nicole Larson gives. Now this is in the I believe it's the municipalities convention. Her and the other attorney, the city attorney Scott Letney, gave seminars on how to do redevelopment authority relocations. They are considered the experts in this field, and yet when they have it brought in front of them, they know nothing about it. I mean, this is the malicious intent.
The experts violated the law.
Correct. Yeah. They are out teaching, but yet they don't know anything about this.
So when she says that reasonable consideration will be given to Mr. Fagan, claims, whether they are presented to the RDA or presented to the court, that's a flat-out lie, isn't it?
Flat-out lie.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like we got some swamp right here in
we got swamp. And we're going to get into
It's just not upstairs in the federal government. We got some right here.
Are those bullfrogs I hear?
And you know, another interesting thing. That little statement, that little lie, is in bold-faced print on the front of the Journal Times.
Right. Is to give it emphasis.
You know what they call that when it's a lie like that? They call it fake news.
And here's one of the things.
We got the swamp and the fake news.
Right here.
It's not limited
this
to Washington,
information
DC.
now that we're going to kind of just do a quick
it looks familiar to me.
Yeah, it's like a rerun of what you were talking to for the last year, Jim.
We brought this up a year ago. This information was given to the Journal Times. They elected to do nothing with it. Matter of fact, I just went back and we went through the headlines of the Journal Times for the last 2 years about Machinery Row. it's going to happen. There's tenants that left merchandise there. We can't move forward.
Yeah, right.
There's a new hope for Machinery Row. New design. Someone got hired. We're going to remove part of this. We're going to evict Sam Azarian because he dropped some dirt on the property. All lies. All now. The Journal-Times may not have known that this was a scam, but they never did any investigation. This show was on for a year. All you had to do was turn this on and said, maybe these guys got something a year ago.
No, that's right, and that's what I'm talking about. This,
yeah,
that statement right there could have easily been investigated. We knew it wasn't the truth.
Right.
We've been talking about it for 6 months.
Easy.
And then it comes in the Journal-Times, prints it like it's something brand new. Hey,
right.
They didn't have to sue. They could have gotten a reasonable something from the RDA Redevelopment Authority.
It's.
I like the way these complaints are written, though. I mean, every sentence has got a number in front of it. And how many sentences? We don't have the whole thing here.
I do. It's
we got 56 to
189
189 individual sentences.
And we'll have this on the site so you can look at it yourself. We'll have it so you can page through it.
189 is conspiracy.
Yeah.
It is?
Yep. The last thing after going through all this is, and they conspired to do this against me.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, I'd like to.
Which is a pretty good summary of all this activity.
It gets interesting right around 76. Mm-hmm. That's your favorite one, isn't it?
It is 76.
76.
Why don't you read that out loud for our viewers here, Jim?
Well, just to get back and through this, if we would go to just a little preference. Now, this is going back through a lot of these episodes, but in June the 10th of 2014, Machinery Row was announced. Dickert and Corey Mason and other dignitaries.
Well, Blackwell was there.
Right. Oh, big, huge $65 million development was going. That started out about 71. He starts to lay out the plan of what's happening here. And when it gets to 74, it says, or 71, it says
this
that...
is paragraph 74.
Paragraph 71. That after the June 10th, but prior to December 31st closing, and that was where the city borrowed $4.5 million, upon information and belief, FDP, Blackwell, advised the city, RDA, Friedel, Dickert, Spangenberg, and Sadowski that it did not plan to proceed with the Machinery Row development.
Now, that's a very interesting statement. Yeah. In other words, even though things proceeded, they knew back in June 2014 that...
Well, sometime between June and December.
Yeah. And we actually have an email on one of our episodes, I think it's 35, and I posted it. There's an email to Olsen, who's in this lawsuit, stating we're not moving forward on this project. Right. Now, that was the 25th of September 2014, about a couple months after that announcement. So they knew at that point, I'm not moving forward. He either couldn't get the money. I'm sure there's more depth to that.
And in spite of that, they went ahead and loaned him $4.5 million to buy those properties.
That's exactly right. And what they did, and if you go to 74, it says that upon information and belief, the city, RDA, Friedel, Dickert, Spangenberg, and Sadowski elected to provide the loan to FDP in order to induce FDP to act as a straw man for the city or RDA to acquire the subject area properties.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it doesn't get any clearer than that.
It's right down there. So FDA is Rodney Blackwell.
Right.
So these city employees, Friedel, Dickert, Spangenberg, Sadowski, not employees, but associated with the city agents, wanted to get Rodney Blackwell to act as a straw man for the city, so that the city could get those properties under their control.
Exactly.
They wanted to own them. Why do you suppose they didn't just go ahead and buy them outright?
Well, here's one of the reasons they couldn't just go in and buy them. Even if Blackwell said, well, you know what, I can't do the project, and the city said, gee, I really want those properties, we'll just come in and purchase them.
Didn't you say the tax credits there were contingent on that?
$9 million in tax credits. Corey Mason, on December 17, 2014, is standing in front of him saying, we worked really hard. It's been a bipartisan effort to bring these tax credits, $9 million to the city of Racine.
People think about the funds that you're considering before you. It was with the ambition that we could invest in things in the city that would be game changers for the future of the city, that we could do things that were big and bold and change the redevelopment direction of the city. And that's what you have in front of you, members of the council, an opportunity to do something big and bold that would literally change the way people think about downtown and the river, and I'd even argue the city itself. So I can't think of a more appropriate use of the funds than a big project like this. And I would even challenge you, if it's not for a big and bold project like this, what would you fund it for? I mean, it's really a great opportunity you have in front of you. The other thing I'd like to remind people of is nobody's asking the city to go this alone. The state literally changed the law, in no small part because of this project, to bring historic tax credits to Racine, some other communities as well, but Racine specifically. And there's the potential of losing $9 million worth of credits if action isn't taken before the end of the year. I would hate to see that as a possible outcome of today. So nobody's asking the city to bear the brunt of it alone. You've had a bipartisan coalition of legislators work together to get this stuff done.
They needed a developer on board so those tax credits could be
you get the
utilized.
tax credit. That was
Now,
on
Because they were not available to a municipality. It had to
They
be
are
a
not.
private developer.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. But here's the thing. What did Corey know? What did Corey Mason know
did
at
he?
that time?
Did he know at the time he arranged the $9 million that Rodney Blackwell had no intention of proceeding with the?
Now let's just take.
Well, a long time ago, we kind of surmised that somebody knew something, and
Right.
the deal smelled awful funny.
Exactly.
And, you know, we're still teasing out the details, but that's a good question. Just
It's a-
what did Corey Mason know, and when
Right.
did he know it?
Exactly. And you're telling me that nobody knew that Blackwell had jettisoned this project. And all of a sudden, behind the scenes, we're putting together $4.5 million to loan to a Blackwell straw man to purchase these properties and to keep those $9 million tax credits. And as soon as that was done, those $9 million were given to the city of Racine. Walker eliminates the tax credits and drops it down to the maximum you get is $500,000 in tax credits.
Well, when you say he eliminates the tax credits, he eliminated the program.
The program that
Yeah, they
could
just
get that. Yeah.
cut it off at the knees.
So now these tax credits are out there, and all these extensions, if you go back and all the talk about the extensions for the tax credits, there was no developer. And what they did, and let's move to...
Well, you put that with the loan, it's looking an awful lot like just a huge scam.
It's a total scam, George.
And nobody really has been able to find out exactly what the fate of those tax credits has been yet. Tax credits are marketable. They can be sold on the open market. Whether or not that happened here or not, we really don't know.
No, we don't know.
I mean, there's reason to suspect that something nefarious took place.
Something's wrong.
But,
You can just... Something's
But whether
wrong.
those tax credits were reverted back to the state, or if they got sold, or if they're just out in limbo land somewhere, we haven't discovered that yet. But that's $9 million that's worth looking for.
Here's the other thing. Why did they do it? You're thinking, well, geez, why take the risk of setting up a straw man and doing this? Now, my personal thought was, it's for, I want to be reelected. It's for my own political gain. I'm putting together this big project. You know, this ego gets in the way. I don't know if there was actually money dispersed to any of these elected officials or employees. That we don't know. But the fact is, we do know that on number 77, prior to closing on 900 Water Street, now that was the tax credit building that Olsen owned, the city RDA, Friedel Dickert, Spangenberg, and Sadowski negotiated a deed in lieu of foreclosure agreement with FDP, allowing the city to reclaim 900 Water Street and the Marina properties and Azar properties when and if FDD defaulted on the loan.
That's unprecedented in this kind of a deal. I mean, it just doesn't happen.
Who gives...
Now, how does this deed in lieu of foreclosure work now?
I sign a quitclaim deed. Basically, it's a deed to the property. It's like a title to a car. I sign a quitclaim deed. I give it to you, George. Even though you gave me a loan, I have the property. My name's on title. You have the deed in lieu of foreclosure. So if at any time, for any reason, really, you can submit that deed and you own the property.
And claim ownership of those.
And the reason they did that, because they knew Blackwell was not developing this property. And they thought, well, their hope was another developer is going to walk in and we can sign the deed over to this new developer and no foul.
It looks to me like that was an inducement for Rodney Blackwell to stay involved, at least on paper, at least in the public arena, to stay involved,
Rodney
even though he
Blackwell
was not.
Also collected $30,000 on his escrow.
He did get a little
He
something.
got a return of money that he had invested.
He got a
Right.
return of that
And
original.
Bowman.
Another unheard of thing.
Yeah, and Bowman got $80,000. His partner or business partner or however what he was, but he got 80 plus $1,000. And there's other things on that escrow account, roll labels. There's things that are just kind of questionable as to how and what was actually paid to the developers or anybody really on it. All that should be investigated.
But that might be enough to incentive for Rodney Blackwell to be a straw man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I get my 30,000 bucks back, and my partner gets his 80 grand.
Well, and his partner had been, there was a lawsuit between him and his partner. His partner had sued Rodney Blackwell for some money.
Yeah.
And so that could have been his way of settling that lawsuit, paying that off, and calling it a finder's fees, what they labeled it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay, yeah.
well, it doesn't matter what you call it. If I give you $80,000 or make sure that you get it,
But somebody wants
then we're
Rodney,
good, right? I don't know you anymore. Yeah.
But somebody comes on Rodney Blackwell. I want you to be a straw man just to come in here and take possession of it so that we can ultimately get it. And he said, "What's in it for me?"
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got
And what is
30,000
it?
in
Yeah,
it for you.
exactly. Get your money back. Here's the other thing. Number 79. That the loan was not secured by any personal guarantees, bonds, or other security other than a pledge of the interest in the real estate. Rodney had nothing to lose. He had, when they say, well, why don't we sue, and we even mentioned, why don't we sue Rodney Blackwell?
Yeah.
You can't sue him.
Well, yeah. All what it means is the only interest in that loan, the only thing that holding
The only collateral.
only collateral. That's the word I want. The only collateral is the property itself. There's nothing.
See,
nothing
here's the
behind
thing.
it.
When you go into a development, I've done them. They do personal guarantees. You sign on the dotted line. I put up my house. I put up my car. I put up everything that I own for that development. I mean, developments are risky, and there's a reason they're risky, because when you loan money on a development, that person loaning the money wants as much collateral as possible to make sure that works.
Right.
I mean, it's part of business. And, you win big, you lose big. But the fact is that there was nothing as far as any kind of collateral other than the buildings is very, very, it was suspicious right there. I mean, that alone just sends
Well,
up red
and the
flags.
fact that this exists, I mean, when we watched the RDA meeting last week, and I think it was Doug Nicholson said, can we sue him and get some of our money back? And it was just kind of glossed over.
Oh, then
like that was not
Kalanick was shaking his head.
yeah,
Oh,
like that,
no.
yeah, that's just not
Because they all
available.
know what's going on here. So when you talk about the players in it, Amy Connolly and Palahniuk were not here when this was, done.
That's why I see Friedel's name there, because
Right,
Friedel was
right. And he
replaced by
was-
Palahniuk.
Absolutely. But the cover-up is continuing, and they're in part of the cover-up. So they're in it as much as anybody else, because their duty is a fiduciary responsibility is to uncover this for the taxpayer. And the attorney office in the city of Racine,
to protect
Wow.
the interest of the citizens.
It,
Well, there's some question about that, because Racine is actually a corporation.
It's called a municipal corporation.
Yes. So the interest of those officials who will function within there is
They're like officers of a corporation. You normally
So-
can't, unless it's something criminal. I mean,
so their
they can't-
allegiance is to the corporation more than it is to the public.
Oh, I would think so.
Yeah.
yeah, to the corporation, but the
That,
corporation is the
that
public.
tends to be.
Well-
in fact, I've experienced personally. Scott Letney wouldn't address any questions I had address it to the alderman. So I'd ask the alderman, could you ask him this type of thing? Because I'm just a citizen, and he flat out said that. No, I don't have anything to say to you. You're just a
Well,
citizen.
but what
I
he's done
represent- I
here, what
represent
he's done
the
and that
alderman.
legal department has done is cost the community a tremendous amount of money, and it's still going. And we're probably at 10 million, and now
Yeah.
they want to knock them down, and now there's more money involved here. This has to stop. This has to be investigated thoroughly.
Well, these
Now,
are
the-
two big suits. The Fagan lawsuit is a big one, and there's more on the way. These three are not the end of it. There's going to be more of these relocation suits coming up because there were more tenants down there. There were more people that were displaced, and boy,
Well, and
hangover.
yeah, this is a big hangover, and I think what we're going to in the future shows, and I think we've talked about it, is going into who are the players here, and we talking about an attorney firm that was hired to go in and do the final paperwork for this deal. I mean, it was the reason they didn't do it in the attorney's office within the city. They knew it was a scam. They knew this was a straw man. They all knew it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, whoa, hands off of that. We'll hire somebody. But their responsibility is to oversee who they hire and what is done by what that firm does.
Yeah.
And they didn't do that.
Yeah, when you're getting letters from the state that says this is what you should do, and you're sending them back saying, well, we don't agree with that. You know?
This is very deep.
That's pretty cheeky.
Yeah, well, yeah, and it came from somebody that knew their business, obviously, and Nicole Larson didn't. So now we've got a lawsuit, you know, and instead of just working with the people and being honest with them, it's building up. And there could be, like you say, there could be a lot more. One of the things we're wondering about, you know, Sam Azarian, this is Sam Azarian's, he was forced to move out. Well, he had a bunch of tenants.
Right.
You know, the people that own boats had stuff in there. Now, they are allowed relocation costs, and I know this personally from having managed apartment building where the city came in and took it, and my tenants, the people that we were renting in there, all got relocation costs.
Well, I would think that the people in storage, they had their boats stored down there, probably have some kind of a claim if they had to move their
I think anybody who is on that property has claim at any point. You know, I mean,
well, you need to find
you're
a
probably
new
right.
place to store it. I mean, with the tenants that I was, you know, working with, they got a new place to rent, and rent paid for 6 months, whatever it was, and some money besides, moving costs and that type of stuff. Well, these were tenants.
Yeah.
And you know, they are allowed money. Now, how much it is because they're only storing stuff, I don't know. But didn't we have a case up on Mound Avenue where somebody was storing some stuff up there?
I'd like to get into that a little bit, because I think that's highlighted in this suit.
Yeah. Oh, was that brought in this suit?
Yeah.
All right. So what was with the Mountain Avenue properties? There was. Is that part of this thing? Is that part of Rootworks? Is Machinery Row part of Rootworks?
Well, it's all part of the riverfront development.
Okay.
You know, I mean, Machinery Row is an individual project, but it's part of an overall development.
Okay.
And the Mound Avenue stuff, that's, what do they call it, that the Root River Right-of-Way or Root River Parkway?
Well, Mound Avenue Bike Trail or something, I'm not going to tie it all together. I'm not sure, but that's highlighted in this.
Yeah, and there was a tenant up there. Well, it was one of the county board supervisors, right?
Well, this part of the suit is that saying, how can you not relocate Fagan, Olsen, Azarian, and all these other tenants when 100 yards away, within 3 or 4 months, you have the whole relocation of another tenant up there, and it happened to be Monty Osterman, who was a county board supervisor.
Well, he's a county board supervisor, so he maybe has a few connections.
Oh, he's got a total connection. He moved in there to get relocated. I mean,
I strongly suspect that's true.
There's no doubt about it in my mind. But the fact is,
so it's apparently quite remunerative. You make money off of getting relocated.
Yeah.
Well, he did, I think,
remuneration.
Here's the thing. None of that information was brought out. That was all behind closed doors.
That relocation plan was approved on May 20th, 2014. So that happened before all of the stuff down at Machinery Row.
Which, now, is that 14? But I don't think he got paid till after.
Well, it doesn't matter. The fact is that they negotiated it and they settled on it. They approved it.
That was very smoothly. It just went like clockwork. Lots of money. Nobody said anything.
When it came to the bums over there, though, Machinery Row,
regular people.
We don't even have to mention to them guys that they got money coming.
Oh my gosh! I mean, this thing goes deeper and deeper. Now you go back to the kickbacks. Now there was all these kickbacks. That's another thing. You know, the relocation,
that's in the lawsuit, right?
Yeah,
and the kickbacks came in, and Azarian. Here's one interesting thing: Azarian kickback 110,000. It says here on number 83, and Olsen did 150,000, and he's numbered 79, I think. Well, whatever. He gave 150. Azarian gave 110. There was a third seller in there, and that was Jensen Metal Products, Gita Jensen, and she had a building over there. Now, she was not, strapped on cash, so she was in taxes were paid, and I think the building was functioning, and she had storage in there. But she's not in any lawsuit. She's not asking for relocation. But her purchase price of that building was, I believe, $1.9 million, assessed at little over $1 million. So there's an $800,000 overage. Why on that particular property was there's so much more money spent on that property, which was a lesser property than the 900 Water Street property?
Well, if you pay more than it's worth, you can get what it's worth and still give a kickback.
Well, then I think I'm sure that, how did they, the fact is 150,
Just saying.
110, There had to be another couple $100,000 in there, and that's where I'm sure that's where that came from. But the fact is, there's some negotiation that went on there, and there's no lawsuit. There's nothing. It's just silence, and that says something too. So that again should be looked at.
Yeah. Well.
Basic thing. We see this. We've been talking about it for months. It's a mess.
Yeah,
it's
a mess.
It is.
And they want to continue making it even worse. Maybe worse for us. Maybe it covers up some thing for them. And let's get rid of the buildings.
Yeah, they want to do the demolition now. They've already approved. Did they approve the demolition itself, or?
I'd have to look at the business minutes to see.
But I mean, they got on track to demolish those buildings, which would be a real shame because they were historically significant not too long ago, and the way those buildings are built, I mean, it's solid steel girders and big. I mean, it's like 18-inch by 18-inch.
Oh, I'll bet you all of that.
What kind of wood is that? I don't think it was cypress, but it was spruce. Did he say?
I don't know if it's spruce.
Yeah.
I really don't know what.
But you don't find lumber like that anymore.
That 900 building.
Not in that size.
Yeah.
Well, that's all virgin timber in there. That was built in 1901 or 02.
Yeah,
that's
it's
all
over 100
virgin
years
timber.
old.
Double floors up there. I mean, you rip the floors up, you got hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of reclaimed lumber. So it definitely should not be taken down. What should be done is stop right now. Stop the RDA from doing anything. If they're fraudulent, they've got kickbacks, they're using straw men. I mean, this is serious stuff. There should be an investigation. Dennis Monti back in April was on this show and talked about the complaint he filed with the sheriff's department.
This, which is a high-profile complaint, they're talking about handling here in the city.
Let me read you what the cover letter to the complaint is. I'm requesting an investigation and possible criminal charges be instituted against Racine Mayor John Dickert, the city administrator, Tom Friedel, and the city attorney, Scott Letney. A formal complaint is attached, and not only was this formal complaint attached, but there was also a jump drive that has some video evidence on it as well. And I'm also requesting that this investigation be transferred out of Racine due to the high profile of the named individuals, and gave them the number by which I could be reached. Now, Lieutenant Schumann assured me, before it was handed off to someone else, that, I'm fully confident that there's no conflict of interest here, and the city of the Racine County Sheriff's Department can handle this. We took care of the Gary Becker case. That's not standard practice in other communities. If it involves one of their own, it goes to another jurisdiction to remove any appearances of conflict of interest.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
You can't find anything on that. I mean, the
Journal Times has never reported on the fact that a complaint was filed.
Nothing. I'm telling you, there's way more here, and I think we're the only ones that are bringing this stuff up.
Well, they should stop that demolition. Do not do that.
That would be extremely damaging. Those buildings are good, they're strong, and there's a lot of small businesses that aren't ready to go out and spend $1 million on a vacant lot to build a plant so they can move in. Something like those buildings are just there. You have to go in and you have to maybe set up your own electrical and do a few things inside, but otherwise you've got the main structure there.
Yeah.
I mean, we can have a lot more of this natural growth going on without waiting for somebody to come in with, like a Foxconn who knows what that's going to be.
Well, and if somebody does come along and say, I really want to develop something on that property, but those buildings have to go, I mean, if it's a viable plan and they're showing up with money, you can tear them down then.
Yeah,
it doesn't take that long to demolish those buildings.
Yeah, we don't need to have more green space ready.
No,
because we've already got lots of green space ready. In the form of Jacobson and Bell City Foundry and Walker. I mean, we have lots of places. If somebody wants to come in and spend $10 million just on a building so they can start up, we got places for you.
But we don't have a lot of existing buildings that can be transitioned into something else.
According to Racine County Economic Development Corporation, we don't have enough of. We should have more buildings so that companies can come in and find places to use.
I really want them to explore the idea of putting a farmer's market down there. I just think that
Well, like
I've never
public
been in the
parking.
building, but I think it would really be a
Are
nice,
you,
a nice
are you
fit.
posting that YouTube that you sent around to me, the one with
With Dickert?
Racine County Eye?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that gives a good shot of the inside, or we
Yeah.
need to get one ourselves of the inside. That is some beautiful
It's a great
structure in
building.
there.
Yeah,
Great
It's
building.
yeah.
big, high, you know.
But you're never going to
Right.
go anywhere, George, with anything as long as there are all this activity around
No,
us.
when you got all this corruption, yeah.
Nothing's
We got to
gonna
drain the swamp, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, enough of that for the moment. I tell you what, something that I wanted to do that we didn't get around to last week was to highlight a couple of businesses around town. You know, I mean, this is not paid advertising. This
No.
is sometimes people say, "You guys, all you do is complain." Well, you know, there's some businesses around town that deserve to be recognized for their service to the community and the good standards that they uphold. And one of them is a guy by the name of Tony Coey, who runs AC Automotive Repair out in Memorial Drive out near Durand. So a shout out to Tony. He's got good service, good prices. You got anybody that you'd like to mention?
You know, a guy that started up business about the same time I arrived, 1968, Dick Barris. Dick Barris is no longer around, but his wife and son are, Danny and her name escapes me right now. But anyway, they have run a good business out there, good mechanics there. They have the towing service.
Oh, okay, Barris Towing.
Yeah, Barris Towing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
What do you got, Jim?
Well, now you put me in a spot. You know, a local small business, and it's Douglas Hardware. I think they do a great job.
Oh yeah,
And Douglas,
absolutely.
And, you know, they're in there. They're in. You know, it's
In fact, if you hadn't mentioned them, I was going to go back and mention them as a second because
Yeah, no,
they're good people.
good people.
Yeah.
You know, Jim, Linda, that family has been around. It's actually second generation.
Yeah,
Oh,
they-
they've been kind of beat up too with that Douglas
Oh,
Avenue.
yeah,
Oh
I mean,
man,
they-
it's
they
all
hang-
torn up in front
Yeah,
of them.
but,
But
you
man, they have a good business
Yeah,
there.
they
They,
do. No,
they
good
treat
people.
people well, and
Yeah.
they're convenient.
Yeah, very.
So
You know, very.
yeah,
Racine.
they had just a little store on where the parking lot was.
Yep.
And there was Wex Lumber that was behind them there, so they bought up all that stuff when Wex went out. You know, Menards came in, and
yeah,
so they built a whole new, great big, huge store. I thought it was so big, I thought they never fill that thing up, and boy, they filled it right up, and they've been doing great ever since. And by the way, I just want to apologize to Jean. I just had a brain fart there, Jean, but Jean Barris she's. They're doing a
I
fantastic
was wondering
job
what
there,
that
too.
smell was.
All right, let's quit this show.
Yeah, let's put this to rest, huh? Okay. Well, once again, I think we've done it, gentlemen. Please keep watching. We want to thank you guys again for keeping track of us and what we're doing here. We get so many people approaching us if we're out for lunch or something, and folks will come up and say, "Hey, you're the Talking Racine guy. You're the Talking Racine guys. Thank you for what you're doing. Keep up the good work." That's very encouraging. It's very gratifying to know that you people out there appreciate it, and we know there's an awful lot of viewers. So, thank you for being there. Happy New Year to everybody.
Yeah, let's
New Year.
have a great 2018. Let's
Yeah.
really start cleaning some stuff up.
We'll see you soon. Thank you.